to identify a gay record checklist and stick that to identify what it is that you're not to work on, and then keep it in mind, still having this contract with the veterans to that could be something that change and just let it down.
All right, I will call this February 2nd, 2023 meeting of the Environmental Management Policy Committee to order. If we can all stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right. Got a pretty good crowd here this morning. Let's do some introductions. I'm Bill Emerson, Lake County Surveyor.
Kathy Luther, Nancy.
I'm Flor Baum, Nursing.
Kate Guitar, Director of Northwest Regional Office. Can he say that?
Ryu Evans Iden.
I still can't hear the first name.
Ryu Evans Iden.
Catherine Faulkner, Lake Michigan Coastal Program.
Jenny Orsberg, Program Manager for the Lake Michigan Coastal Program, DNR.
Kay Nelson, Director of Environmental and Public Policy at Northwest Indiana Forum.
Bob Forster, Council College.
Ryan Lissig, Program Director over at Tri-Fin Indiana.
Reggie Korthals, Executive Director of the Indiana MS4 Partnership, Coordinator for the Nice White Group in Northwest Indiana, and I work for Butler.
Mike Milovich, General Manager, Senator, District of Michigan City.
Jen Birchfield, Natural Resources Planner, Nursing.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for coming today. Welcome. We do have minutes from our November 3rd meeting. If you guys had a chance to look at those. Is there a motion to approve?
I move to approve.
I second.
All right, second, Brian. All those in favor, or any discussion on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Minutes are passed. Thank you. Anybody sign up for public comment? Okay. Nobody signed up for public comments. We will have announcements later that we can have. All right. Next, Kathy, for the schedule.
So you do have in your packet the proposed schedule for EMPC meetings for 2023. In addition, Drive Clean Indiana, just like yesterday, confirmed they're going to do electric vehicle workshops on 3 of these dates. But I didn't bring the email with me. I think it's April 6th, and do you know, Ryan, off the top of your head?
I do not know.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
So I think it's April and June and September, but we will confirm that for everybody. As you recall, we hold the quarterly meetings for NERC business, but try to hold the date and the time that many people have been coming here for 20 years.
Much longer than that.
Ryan, you smirked.
Don't say anything, Kate.
I'm getting proud of it, Reggie. I'm telling you.
Do you want us to, provide dates? I didn't realize I had to send them to you.
If you have a date that you'd like to hold for something on one of these dates, then yes, please let us know and we'll put it back out to everyone.
Okay.
And I know, Reggie, you had said perhaps holding a NICEWA meeting.
Yeah.
Well, not only that, but there's some training things that have come up that we're not going to be able to handle at the annual meeting. There's someone that contacted me about working with communities on invasive species for when they do green infrastructure, that type of thing. So I'd like to get her up here. I'd like to do a little bit more on what the communities need to do for water quality characterization, and maybe a follow-up to whatever is done at the annual meeting, so we can, people that can't go to that, we can provide them with those tools. But I'm sitting here picking out dates, and they're the same dates Carl picked out, so we need to work on that.
So there's a couple things we can do. One, I'll confirm the drive clean dates and send them back to you, Reggie, specifically.
Okay.
And the other thing, And Bill, that was a good idea. I mean, these meetings are usually an hour or less. I mean, we could do something to start later for the next.
Yeah, even on one of our
Yeah.
set meeting dates on the 3rd, August 3rd, May 4th or something, we could always, I think, piggyback on that.
Yeah, I can look at the calendar that went out because we always meet the first Tuesday of the month. And if there's some way we can maybe change that.
All right. Also, the Honorable Kevin Breisky has joined us for the record.
Kevin!
Honorable.
Thank you. Yes.
And I do apologize. I probably have to check my big dates before we started.
Former county surveyor.
And just in addition to the calendar issue, I mean, the forum, we try to keep track of who's having meetings so that we don't do any of our regional meetings on dates when the smaller organizations are trying to have a meeting. So anything that you can get to NERC, be it Kathy or NERC in general, that can be put on a calendar would be very helpful, because that's one of the tools that we reference before we think.
Okay, and copy Floor. Because she won't lose it.
Floor's good.
Okay, so I'm gonna confirm those CI dates and then send it to Reggie.
Okay, if we do something that is training for contractors and developers, businesses, is that, because that's on the new permit, is that something that like the forum would just kind of say, we help support it, get it out there to contractors and developers, is that something you would do?
I'd like to be able to say yes in all cases, but I can't say yes in all cases.
Okay.
But certainly send it to me, and, I've known all you long enough and well enough that if I don't get the okay to do it in one of our newsletters, I can let you know. Otherwise, we do regular newsletters to our full membership, so it's over 500 addresses that it goes out to.
That's a good point. There's a lot of.
Yeah, we have a big
construction.
contractors and developers certification training in March, Monday and Tuesday, the 20th and 21st. IU Northwest is going to host it through the CURE program. So I really would like to get that information out there. So
So,
I will.
as much as I brag about being old, it's also going away.
Yes, it's true.
Did you send it to Dewey?
Also, George Koppel has joined us for the record, Union Township trustee, right?
Thank you, sir. Apologize for my tardiness.
No problem. Just want to make sure you're noted as here for the record.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Sorry, I keep interrupting for that.
So that Dewey is the Construction Development Foundation, which is across the street from us. Kay had asked me, I did not put this on the agenda. Kay had asked if I could give an update on a couple of our planning projects that I didn't have on the agenda, that's sort of a change to the agenda, but I figured I could squeeze in with calendar.
Sure. Go.
So for the climate action plan framework, we are in the process, our climate fellow has turned into a pumpkin, so, I mean, he's still there, but he's sort of done. So we are going through everything very carefully to hopefully have a draft out shortly to the working group. And then here, so I anticipate we would be bringing it to EMPC in May, on May 4th, for a recommendation.
So will we get an advance of that so we can read it?
Yes.
So and you want us to
Well, the
vote?
working group would get it even sooner, so that's you.
I am on that work.
So that's where that's at. I imagine we'll have at least one meeting of the working group between then and maybe two. So that's one thing we're working on. Jen, you want to talk about the community project?
Yes, so Community, we have some great opportunities. There's a lot of funding up there for urban forestry, so we've been working really hard with our partners to see, what we can secure of that funding from Northwest Indiana. We do have a existing U.S. Forest Service Great Lakes Restoration Initiative grant that funds our tree pass-through program, through which we accept applications from municipal partners, community-based partners. A lot of times we work with public works departments or parks departments, but also, you know, if there's a church group or a 4-H group or a garden club, we welcome those applications. We generally have a spring and a fall round of tree distributions. We will have a spring distribution of trees. I've already received some inquiries. We need to officially open that application process for spring, which I'll be doing in the coming week. And then generally the tree distributions take place once we review those applications and made our allocations. The distributions typically take place in April. We do ask that tree recipients attend a half-day training prior to receiving their trees so that we know that they're going to plant them properly. But yeah, keep an eye out for that if you are on my kind of community urban forestry list. And I think we'll probably send the announcement out to the EPC list as well. In the coming week, I will be officially opening those applications. Typically, we give about a month after we officially open it for applications to come in. And then a committee reviews those applications and allocates the trees among the applicants.
Do you want to come to the NICEWAG meeting next week on Tuesday at IUN in the library and announce that?
I would love to. I don't have my calendar in front of me, but next Tuesday,
9 o'clock at the first floor, community room, I think it's 105. Just look for me, I'll be standing around.
okay.
But it'll be a good opportunity because they're talking about water quality characterization, so there'll be a lot of people attending.
Okay, fantastic. Yep, I'll get that on my calendar.
I think those are the main things that we're looking at right now.
Yeah, the one other that I would add, if I may, in case we have any takers in the room here, we have worked with DNR Lake Michigan Coastal Program to develop a coastal hazards resiliency assessment. This is for Northwest Indiana communities. We call it coastal, but that doesn't mean just shoreline. That's coastal meaning the coastal zone, which is basically the Lake Michigan watershed in Lake Porter and Fort counties. I've reached out to some of you directly with that assessment, but it's a self-assessment that we envision local government, local planning agencies, authorities, working through that assessment as a team. So you might have your MS4 coordinator. You may have your, if you have an emergency personnel. Obviously, communities are different. Some have more staff than others. But it's meant to be kind of a team come together and just walk through, some basic questions about how prepared are you for natural hazards that might occur. Things like flooding, things like erosion, either along the shoreline or inland along waterways. So we are asking communities to please take a look at that assessment and complete it. It's beneficial to your community in that, you walk through this and you can kind of see where am I, how prepared are we. I will also say that certain funding opportunities, I won't list them off, but certain funding opportunities related to emergencies and hazards, completing this assessment will help you to ensure that you've ticked off your boxes so that you're eligible for those things and have everything in there that you need to. So we are asking that communities complete that. I've reached out to some of you directly. If you're interested, please reach out to me. We have some resources available to come and meet with your community directly and help you walk through any questions. Coastal Program, do you guys have anything to add?
No, again, this is a great opportunity to let us know what you know or don't know so that we can better provide you services. That's what we're here for. And bring in national and regional technical assistance, expertise, funding to help you be more resilient as a community, as a local government, boards, commissions, departments, however it may be. So what I think is happening is that people may see that and go, well, I need my engineer to look at this, or I need my stormwater. It's actually anyone and everyone. You represent your community as it is, in how limited limited it may be or not. You may have all the staff in the world. It is really a simple walkthrough exercise, checklist.
It's not being graded.
It's not graded, it just gives us we're just trying to identify your needs, your specific community needs. It's not saying one community is better than the other, one county is better than the other. It's just so we know how we can better serve you and then help you participate in some really big initiatives that are gonna happen over the next couple of years.
Okay, here's a question. Which one of you guys want to present this at the nice house?
It's actually Joe and
Yes.
Jen.
Yeah.
So-
Okay.
Let's follow up. I would love to
The
present.
importance of this is, MS4 coordinators are overwhelmed. The new permit requires so many things that they have to do, that if they know that they could select someone else from their community to participate and do this, that's another response you're gonna get. So
Okay.
I would like to get that
I
information
wouldn't
out there.
say, Reggie, that it's to select another person. It's
a
really,
team.
it is a team. So
Yeah,
it is a half a day, maybe a couple hours.
okay.
Get yours, maybe it's your stormwater board president. It's an
Yeah.
appointed person, it's a citizen. It is really supposed to be a broad brush of people that can sit down and look and say, I don't know what that means. Well, that's
Garden
a
club.
valuable answer.
It's valuable
to
even
us.
to know that you don't know. And I
Garden
will.
club presidents in the
Yeah,
different-
and so it may be that the MS4 individual is not the person to coordinate the team,
Right.
but there are certain questions that pertain probably to the MS4 and others that pertain to, the engineer or the planner. And so it's kind of meant to be a group effort there, but not meant to be a heavy lift.
Not at
Okay,
all.
if you can I just want a couple sentences, because I'm gonna update the agenda then, and I'll send it out today. Just send me a couple of updates, because sometimes these type of things will draw people to the meeting more than how do you
Okay.
do the water quality characterization.
Great, and we did have, after we kind of presented on just the workshops we were having at some of the last MS4
Yeah.
meetings, we did have some response of people saying, okay, what are my next steps? So I appreciate that, that was super helpful.
And they can walk through the questionnaire and show everyone at once how just really simple.
Mhm.
Okay.
You made a general statement that going through this helps you identify funding sources. If there's one thing that seems to be catching everyone's attention is, oh, there's money. So my question to our esteemed chair, how can the broader commissioners meeting have a brief presentation on this so that they take it back and recognize that they're gonna assign it to someone?
If that doesn't happen, we're gonna ask for it to happen.
That's a great idea.
We don't usually.
I'll take that as
I'm serious.
Yes, okay.
I mean, you are a contractor for
Yeah.
us. so
I
I
agree
would
with
like
that.
to be
We
able
will.
to have a presentation in front of full commission.
That's definitely fair. We have announced it at the full commission, but I hear you.
And we've
The
handed
full
out
presentation.
flyers and we promoted it, but we haven't done the actual presentation.
There's something about that commissioners meeting that when they're all together, sitting at that table and you present things, it's like somebody turns a light on in their head. When I gave the MS4 presentation, all of a sudden, they're all coming up saying, am I one? Am I a community? Like,
Right.
you should know that.
It adds weight,
Yes.
Yeah, and we're having trouble getting quorum on some of those.
Yeah,
Look at
and-
that.
So,
Yeah.
I don't wanna pull that trigger on everything. We did it with the MS4, that's a big deal with the new permit and everything. This is too, but because we have to be careful. that's all.
Yeah,
Or maybe
I don't think when the next full commission is, I think it might be May.
Yeah.
So,
It's noted though, Jenny, we will
Yeah.
get on that. It's
so
It's been announced several
Thank you,
times in
because it
email to
helps
the commission,
us
but
push.
do you as an organization send out a newsletter specifically to your commissioners? Or are you by law required, if you send a newsletter to commissioners, it's gotta go like to the Times? Not that you're saying anything here, but I'm just wondering, is that an option, independent of a commission meeting, to send them a single topic email of value to them?
Well, and we have, I'm sorry, when we have sent out, in our initial mass emails about this project, and rolling out the assessment, we did include the commissioners in that, so they would have gotten one or more, notices of this tool is available, this tool has been developed, we're asking it be completed, here are some training opportunities, here's who you can reach out to.
I mean, with very few exceptions, most of our information goes out to our full list of everybody, so nobody can come back later and say, you didn't send it to them. Okay, so that's the, there is very few things that we send only to the commissioners, but though that is carefully controlled by Ty because so they don't get overwhelmed and then stop reading our emails at all. So, that's the balance we walk, but we've sent it out before, but we haven't really done newsletters per se.
Just more email, just an email.
Yeah, since we have lost our public participation planner.
I've always got a brief statement I make at the
Yes.
meetings. I mean,
Yes.
I can go into more detail and maybe stand up and walk around with a handout or something.
Well, that's what we've done before.
And we have maybe copies available at the
Monopolize.
commission.
Yeah,
I was there with copies of it.
No, I
and
trust
flyer.
you're doing all you can,
Yeah.
it's just like, come on
I- yeah.
already.
Yeah, I think we just asked to have that, for the MPC presentation. We want to cover that,
Yeah.
so.
Can we add in there the Northwest Indiana, IU Northwest is going to, through the CURE program, establish a class for municipal employees on how to write your own grants. So that you don't have to hire a grant writer and that you can go after these things. Some of the grant offerings have groups like the Coaster program that'll come in and work with you, and you don't have to pay that out. And we're getting a lot of the smaller communities saying we can't afford to pay for this, so we're gonna provide that.
When is that supposed to be?
As soon as I can get them to schedule it. I'm working for this summer, okay, to make it a 2-month event. The fellow that teaches it, Dr. Kumanseko, I'm working with his schedule too. We're trying to get a lot more things engaged through CURE into the community.
Is Ellen in charge of CURE?
Yes.
I mean, one of the things that, has IUN applied for any of the environmental justice grants that would support the grant writing class?
That's on the agenda, Kay. Looking at that, and I don't know whether I'm going to take that on, or I don't know, it's like another retirement job. So we'll figure it out. And we already talked about, because we had this discussion when we had that meeting, and we've got to move in that direction.
It's been a discussion for a number of years through SPIA's advisory board.
Okay.
And I'm very disappointed to hear that they have not done any grant application for this. I mean, hundreds of millions of dollars are going around the nation for assisting on issues, and this is grant writers. The absence of grant writers has been identified at all levels as a major issue, and so hopefully you have success, Reggie. Good luck.
Well, the president of the university just appointed me to some committee because I said that adjunct professors were not included in the decision-making, so he made me part of the decision-making team.
That's
That'll
what
Careful what
take
you
me.
complain about, Rachel.
So hopefully, but as we go down that road, I'm gonna have her bring you in on this because it's something we need to do. The money's there, we need to go after it.
Jennifer, I'll follow up with you on that assessment too.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I know I asked for these updates, but if I can interject, there are a couple of bills at the State House that I don't know that they're going to go very far. But there is a greenhouse gas emission inventory grant program that Representative Boyd has put forward. I don't have any, I mean, I can read the digest, but I don't know where it stands. I mean, it's been referred to House Environmental. It requires Department of Environmental Management to establish and administer the greenhouse gas emissions inventory grant program. Provides that the department may award a grant to a town, city, or county that partners with the Indiana Sustainability Development Program or any other accredited college or university in Indiana to conduct an inventory. Provides the maximum amount of money the department may award based off the population and establishes a greenhouse gas emissions inventory fund. it makes an appropriation, so that means it has to go before Ways and Means at some point as well. But I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
What's the Indiana Sustainable Development Program?
I have no idea. This is 12 pages worth of bills, and I'm trying to
I know.
figure out what's going on.
I know, I'm just
And
thinking.
sadly, the ones that, many of them you can kind of push away because you know they're not even going to get out of committee. This
Is
might
that
be
out
one
of
of them.
the energy? Ryan, have you ever heard that? No.
Which one?
The Indiana
Indiana.
Sustainable Development
Indiana
Program.
Sustainability Development Program.
I do believe it's out of IU,
Yeah,
Sustainability Office.
at IUP Live.
It's House Bill 1193.
There's a couple of other bills, Kate. I got a notice from the Hoosier Environmental Council. And I haven't had a chance to look at them. I know one of them has to do with limiting the ability of local government to have in their ordinances that require permits, construction permits for land disturbance under an acre. They don't want to be able to do that. I don't know where that's gonna go, but that's sitting there.
So the process for, at NERC, there's a legislative committee. I don't know that they've convened yet.
Okay,
No. Mr. Topol is saying no, they have not.
That to my knowledge.
So if there are bills that, probably the best way to funnel that would be through one of the commissioners at the table to the legislative committee, or to Ty Warner, or tell me and I can put it to Ty Warner, but be more meaningful through a commissioner. So we can have a discussion about them. I'm not prepared to have a discussion about them now. If there's a group here that wants to do that exercise that Kay's doing about legislation.
Well, the legislative committee should probably meet soon, right?
They should, yes,
Since session.
I
tomorrow at the latest.
Well,
I mean, seriously, I mean,
we just
the House
managed
is,
to get a quorum and get officers,
That's
like.
true. Okay, all right.
Who are
yeah.
elected officers?
Richard Harway is the chair, who's, from Maryville. He's the clerk treasurer.
He's gone.
And then, oh shoot, this is embarrassing. Mayor Dermody is vice chair, right? That's what I was thinking.
That's right.
And then, who's treasurer?
Sue Lynch.
Oh, Sue Lynch, is she treasurer or secretary? Secretary, so who's treasurer? Yes. Okay, well, those are the three. You're on the executive board.
Yeah. I can ask that committee at least
We'll find that out.
you know, and then anyone here that wants to go to that meeting can then bring up their concerns about environmental. There's a lot of.
No, it's usually just just commissioners of those.
Well, I thought it was public.
I don't think the legislative committee is public.
oh, I don't think so
We
either.
haven't met in a long time.
Okay.
So, okay.
But they would probably identify those bills that they are watching. There are economic development bills that apply to MPOs.
I think Mary Tanis from Dyer and Mayor McDermott from Hammond typically are the commissioners convening or running that.
I'm on that committee, Mayor McDermott hasn't been in a meeting in a long time.
Yeah, so probably Mary Tanis and George.
Yeah, I'll have to talk to Mary to find out.
Okay.
I'm not sure if, last I knew I was still on that committee, but there's only about 5 or 6 of us on it. Michael Griffin was on it, he's no longer.
We also haven't changed the committee since COVID because people's attendance was wonky and things like that, so we probably need to do that again. Well, that was a long discussion about the MPC calendar.
This is exactly what we should be doing, I think.
Yeah.
And I've got one more thing before you go
Yeah.
forward. I have been reappointed to the Great Lakes Advisory Board, which is a 5-5 committee for EPA, the Glencoe office. And our charge question for this 2-year period focuses on community engagement and GLRI grants. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm cranky about stuff because, well, realistically, every federal agency's got a laundry list of what they want for community engagement as part of your grant application. If you don't have your act together, you're not gonna score well. They're putting a great deal of emphasis on that component of your application, like 20%. And we're all at fault, so don't take what I'm saying wrong or as a criticism, because I've been beating up on my industry guys too. It's really tough. We need to do a much better job of having a community engagement process in the region. And I understand and respect that each community is going to want to have their own group. That's fine, but get going on it. I couldn't attend the meeting that Kathy had last week because I had this ethics document that says I'm not supposed to do this, and I'm going to go to Chris Korleski and say, how can you do this to me? I'm a care committee member from the day it started on the AOC. So anyhow, I would love to see us get more GRI grants, more EPA grants, more EJ grants, but, you know, the communities have to figure out that they need to do some work. And how do we best help them understand that, yeah, we can sit here and say, there's money, but if you're not prepared, you can't get it. You know, a public meeting in Gary in December with EPA on an EJ issue, the audience and Kathy and Regina were there. The audience were like, well, how can we get this money? Well, we need to be a 501c, and all these people are like, they're not. Okay, can they be? Can they partner with someone else? Yeah. But no one's told them they have to do all that stuff. So, I mean, we're leaving a lot of money on the table. We're not even approaching any money because we don't qualify to approach for it. And the one thing that I get pushed back on a lot from in this conversation is, well, we already know we're an environmental justice committee. Right, but we have to do a better job of listening. And Raheem's pounded that into conversations more times than, well, I can still count that high, but, you know, sadly, EPA is not using that mantra. EPA is still telling. And it's like, no, we have to figure out a way to listen better. So anyhow, I'll shut up. I am now done interrupting your regularly scheduled program.
I expect you not to talk during announcements.
She's on a roll.
Yeah. Well, what does that look like? I mean, what would they want to see done to qualify for that 20% off or whatever?
Well, in a very simplistic terms, they're looking for you to have an existing, and Raheem can't jump over me if I say anything incorrect or if you got better information. They're looking for a community to have an established group that they can go to with regards to listening to what the community is concerned about. And they've not really done that. It's kind of like the AMPC. It's kind of like my committee, my form of environmental committee. You know, we're established, but we don't always do a good job of getting people to the table and just talking. We follow, you know, we don't open it up to hear. And a lot of elected officials don't like to open it up to hear because it can be a scary scenario. But, you know, communities need to start identifying who their stakeholders are. Who are their community leaders? Who are their, you know, environmental leaders? Who are their elected leaders? Who are their business leaders? And these people all have to be at a table and saying, okay, here's what we have as a concern from the community level, and then how can we work with everyone else to address these? It's not a one-size-fits-all. It's not a magic potion. It's not an immediate gratification. It's going to be long-term planning. Is that close?
That's tough.
Raheem, do I do it?
But I'm confused a bit in what they're asking for another community, another group to advise when a lot of communities have these in place. The new MS4 rule wants advisory teams on
Then
the ground.
identify them. I mean, it's not recreating a new group. It's
Okay.
what do you have? If you've got something in place, that's wonderful.
And does your person that's applying for an energy grant or FEMA grant or any grant at all, does anyone in your entire community who might have, entire municipality who might be applying for a grant, know that they can go to the MS4 advisory group to find out, get to respond to that question?
Okay,
That's the,
okay.
And I think the other thing is just that group, reflect the community.
demographically.
Yes.
I remember with NERC, we were trying to get put on, is it a 2040 or 2050 plan? Like, you guys were at the mall, you're out
Yeah,
trying to. I mean,
2040 we did.
And a lot of people,
Work for us.
it's tough. I mean, you get like 5 people that walk up and talk to you about transportation. I mean, it's hard to engage people. I mean, that's why I look at it more like, this group. I mean, we know what needs to be done, then we,
Yeah.
kind of use this group too as a sounding board for some of these applications, I would think.
It's very difficult.
Yeah.
I mean, the conversation yesterday with the GLAB focused on, asking the EPA GLEMPO people, what does this look like to you? And when we posed this question last fall, as we were ramping up for starting, I asked Chris Horlesky, because he was pitching something as what they were looking for. And I said, I'm assuming this has been vetted amongst air, water, solid waste, and legal department.
Level's over here.
And I was so angry at Chris. I'm like, how can you do this? We have to manage expectations, and we're all over the place. Department of Energy's got a very prescriptive requirement. And, there's things in there called project labor agreements and things along that line when you've got a project going on. Every federal grant that's coming, you have to identify how 40% of your federal grant dollars are benefiting the community. Not going directly to them, but how it's being spent benefits the disadvantaged community. That's going to be different for every fucking point.
I feel like we could put
Are
a
we
grant
recording these
workshop
verbatim?
together between us.
Is this on the web?
Every different program for the grant, yeah.
But I think the groups are meeting. There are these grassroots groups, whatever they may be, but kind of like what Kathy says, there has to be an adequate representation of the demographic.
So,
Kind of like herding cats. at the end of the
Which
day.
is a good, I'm sorry.
But, I'm going to talk about the different EJ grants from the EPA today that are available, but, so let me back this up. Like, the grassroots groups, I shouldn't say grassroots, but NAACP, they have very ambitious goals. They want, for example, DC fast chargers at every church in Northwest Indiana. Start talking about pricing. It's 80% funded. The total project's going to cost $1 million, $2 million. Do you need to have that? But they need to have that, the background information associated with the grant, and they don't have time to read 80, 120 pages or whatever it is, and know what it's looking for in those grant-specific criteria that only someone that has background in it looking at. And there's a ton of different opportunities that are available, but we have to have leadership to, once again, herd everyone together and work together. All these little satellite things are happening, but we have to do it for the common good of, Lake Porter and Fort County.
So I think that's interesting because it's making me think about, so as part of the climate action plan, the citizen activists that kind of kicked us into gear on this, their main, they've decided that their push, and one of the big recommendations is for municipalities to have a sustainability commission or something similar to what Michigan City has. So right now, I think Michigan City is the only one that has a official sustainability commission. I think Brenda has an ordinance to create an environmental advisory group in Gary, but I don't think she's quite got it together yet. I know that Highland, they took ordinance through Highland, they finally passed ordinance, but they're not gonna have it be staff-led, it's gonna be community like they're allowing the community to have a group, but not doing it themselves. That's sort of what Valparaiso administration told our activist group. Go ahead, be the Sustainability Commission. Have at it. So that is gonna be a big recommendation by the Climate Action Plan, and so maybe we need to include things like your Sustainability Commission should be represented.
Well, can NERC apply for one of the EJ grants? We need desperately to start building a stakeholder list. You know, the only thing that differentiates a community in Lake County is a yellow line down the middle of a piece of pavement. You know, so you can't just build one community as an island as far as their stakeholder groups are concerned, and that's gonna cause another, issue possibly going forward, but, okay. I'm always amazed when people think I'm so smart, because I'm really not. I had no idea that MS4 had to have a advisory group at the community where they're.
Well, if you go to lunch with me once in a while.
I'm not sure that I turned you down anytime in the last couple of years, but fair enough. But I'm just saying, can NERC do an application to begin to build that database?
I mean, we could. Here's what I would say, that we actually are required to do that on our transportation planning side, and we have funding to do it, and we have 5 vacant positions. We can't get anybody in here. That's not true. We probably could get in. It's very challenging to find anybody who's qualified to be here to do the work.
But I think she's got a point on bringing people together. Just my conversations with Gary and Lake Station, some of these communities, you talk about 40% has to benefit these communities. I'm going to really question, do charging stations in downtown Gary or somewhere have a real benefit to the community? And so to get that dialogue going, we need those representatives. It reminds me of the old EMPC.
Okay. No, I think that's a really good idea. I think there's a lot of ideas floating around. I mean, we talked about EJ grants. We talked about doing that. We're going to talk to IDEM next week about their AOC grant things. It's a capacity issue, and at this stage, at NERC, our capacity is limited by our ability to staff. One of the things I really would like to see happen, and I've been thinking about this. I've partnered with Indiana University, as part of the Climate Action Plan fellow. They had a contractor on board to have each person doing a climate action plan do special one-on-one workshops on exactly community engagement and social justice, and how are you engaging the community, and what are you hearing from them. And I can think of other places where I've encountered consultants that do this, and they are typically DBE women who start these because women like to communicate, and they're, so how do we build an entrepreneurial culture where we have some of these companies here? There are some in Chicago. The one that you hired was out of Chicago. Like, that's what I would think would be a great thing for some of the activists to get together, form a business. They get on the list of DBEs, and every single agency is going to hire them for their public outreach part of their project.
Are you looking for staff? Are you hiring?
Yeah. We have
Okay,
5 positions on our
talking
list.
about that. I'm not coming back. But I have a suggestion, okay?
But not in my department. They're like accountants and planners, and GIS is sort of
Yeah.
anybody.
And we have money in environmental funds that doesn't get used all the time. We went through, I don't know, how many meetings ago that was, it was like a 3-hour, we went through every line, and there was, I don't know, it was like a couple $100,000 of funds for environmental projects that we weren't using. Maybe that's a source of,
No, those were contractual, that the bills all got paid, I think, I'm not sure what.
no, I'm talking about when we're looking at all the funds, NERC funds and prioritizing funds, and I'll find it, but
Okay.
there was money out there for, I don't know, there's always a pushback on whether we're just using money for engineering services or consultant services or not. capital projects, so.
Well, based on what Kay had said, it's not like we can sit around and twiddle our thumbs for the next couple of years because we'll lose out. So we need to put somebody at the leadership role that is good in public education and outreach, good at pulling different entities together from business and industry to residents and get that going.
Strong recommendation.
Yes, I have a strong recommendation.
All right, I think it's a good discussion to have, kind of a loose meeting here, but.
Well, I think like 2023 is going to be a really busy year. I
Yes.
think we've been asleep for a couple of years. We are going to be extremely busy, just our program alone, and it all is tied into everything that you're all do. I mean, we're back to we need to work together. We have a lot of stuff to do. So we can't be just napping for 2 years.
Can we get back to having monthly EMPC meetings?
I will have to, one of the reasons we went to less meetings is we don't have as many administrators now. Laura is already doing how many meetings? 5. That's one of the reasons we spread them out. So we'll have to see if we can staff that many.
We're monthly if we can get the workshops going. I mean, I don't see any reason why we can't talk, we can talk about it.
Yeah.
Have a brief.
So when we were doing monthly meetings, one thing is the board is going to consider whether we have too many committees. That was going to happen right before COVID hit, and that never happened. Because we find ourselves on a wheel where we're just working for the meetings, right? Because you plan the agenda, plan what you're going to talk about, get the agenda out a week ahead, then then you do the minutes, and then you have the agenda for the next one. And then we're on a wheel, and all we're doing is planning for meetings, and no work is happening between the meetings because we're just planning for meetings, which is why we space them out.
So maybe that's where this workshop benefits.
That's the point, is that we're not doing the work for all of them, somebody else is doing the work some of the time.
Okay.
Right, it doesn't have to be a presentation or anything.
Right.
I actually like this, meeting and talking about
Yeah.
big issues and talking, this is as valuable to me as learning about, whatever.
As long as it gets communicated back to the full commission, that
Right.
these are what we're hearing. And so then we can hear back that they're listening, that there's a point to this.
Bill does a really good job of actually making a report, even if we don't have anything to ask them to vote on.
Well, yeah, and let us know then what feedback you're getting then from.
Yeah, and those meetings can be a little, because it's a lot of people, and you don't want to stay there all day, and if you're,
But that's
So-
okay.
it's sort of,
Us.
and
The feedback is important because if we take something in front of the commission and we get a very negative, we don't give a attitude, then we better go back and rethink how we approach this, whether we're giving them the correct information,
Yeah.
because these are important decisions. And if they don't, our job as public administrators is not to make the decisions, is to put them in front of the elected officials and make sure that they understand they have choices. And if they don't understand what the choices are, some of the municipal leadership, when they learned noncompliance with the MS4 federal permit means impact on highway dollars, state revolving loan funds, they pay attention, okay? So, not that we want to scare them to death, but if we're beating a dead horse, then we need to go around a different way.
And most of the feedback happens after the meetings, really,
Yeah.
because they're pretty formal. I mean,
Yeah.
unless there's a major issue that they discuss and have objection to. So, yeah, that was my experience, especially with them as for the permit, is after the meeting, everybody's like, okay, what are we gonna do? And then the information gets out. So, I can do a better job of hammering home these things too, and making sure people.
And there's
think
help.
about
I mean, we're all
yeah.
here to help carry the burden of the work of the burden. So that's what we're all here for. Nobody should be going anything alone. If there's a need identified, then we all are able to assist.
We're here to help you, Kath.
I know, and I think you do. I mean, I think people do. People help with community, people help with, and then we help on the septic
Yeah.
group, and we're all, but, like the peanut butter,
Yeah, and
I
we'll
need
we'll
to
talk
talk
more,
to
and
Brent.
I wonder, Kathy, if even if, we're kind of looking at it as the official EMPC committee meetings are quarterly, because there is a big administrative lift for that in terms of floors time and doing the official public notice and notifications and minutes, but maybe I'm speaking out of turn, but if there is any opportunity to, on those off months, have a more informal meeting where it's maybe a presentation and just an informal discussion like this, where it doesn't have to be, where I can take general notes and it's not official minutes.
Yeah, and you've got it
Absolutely.
started by calling it a workshop. And so it could be workshop, educational training, and then you post it and you don't have all the other legalities you have.
That was the intent, that a lot of us do things together. We could do them together on this particular date that we're used to meeting. But it's been, I mean, honestly, we started at a year or two before COVID, and then, a couple of coastal grants workshops happened during the NPC time slot.
Yeah, and there's also, we've had a few meetings here and there where it's like 2 people. Where it's only a handful of people, so we do hear the demand for more meetings, but at the same time, they don't always
It's a
have
good
this
time-
robust
Especially with a
conversation.
lot of the,
It's a good time that you're doing this. Our EMPC, our NICEWIDE meeting on Tuesday, we could ask them whether the first Thursday of the month would be better than the first Tuesday of the month. And then maybe it would be easier to switch over and have them do it.
All right.
Are you precluded from doing Zoom meetings for your workshops?
no, that's the other thing, is if we put it on, if it's not a formal NERC committee meeting, it doesn't have to meet the, you can do a hybrid meeting or online meeting.
I mean, I think that would be helpful. I mean, I'm so frustrated, my guys are 9 times out of 10, on Zoom with me. And I get it, it's a 45-minute drive each way to get to our office for most people. And summertime, it's even worse. You don't know what this, Orange Cone Society is going to do to you. So if we could offer the work groups meetings as hybrid, at least we might get some people who will sit there with their camera off, their microphone muted, doing other stuff, but maybe actually catching a phrase or two that they wouldn't get because they wouldn't come.
That's our goal. Get your brains or two.
That's interesting you say that, because we just had that dialogue at IU, is that, do we keep the hybrid system, or do we get people back in the classroom? Do we get people back participating? We've done this at NICEWIDE, saying, no, we're not going to put it online. You've got to get your body here. It's close, you did it before. And if we don't get them used to coming out, we're not going to get the participation. People contribute when they're face to face.
But I think it's just as important to make time
I know
to.
she's upset, okay? I'm just kidding.
No,
But I mean,
you have to go to people where they're at.
You know.
We're not making them come here. That's the other thing.
Yeah, and I agree with what you're saying, Reggie, that it's definitely ideal to be face-to-face, and there's a benefit to this, but just what we've seen with like our workshops and webinars that we did for the resiliency, people come to the webinar and they don't come to an in-person.
But are they participating on the webinar?
right.
Yeah.
Are you walking away with like, yeah, we actually accomplished this?
Right, yeah.
No.
But if no one's in the room,
They're also not.
yeah, it's a, Yeah.
If you want to watch it too.
Yeah.
We can do that.
and maybe, I mean, we've done some of it like hybrid is a good alternative, but then you just still end up with everybody online and no one in the room, and then you're faced with people not hearing each other anyway, so it's hard, I mean.
Finally
I
got
don't
the
know.
technology nailed.
Yeah.
Make it work. That took us a while, as long as they're set up for hybrid, so.
All right.
I mean,
Not sure.
so I'm gonna fill up this, I'm gonna take Reggie's thing and Drive Clean Indiana, we're gonna fill up every Thursday, if there's any open, I'm gonna put in informal discussion.
There won't be any open. There's
That's
so
true.
much to talk about, and I'm sitting here looking right now. I have 4 questions this week on septic systems. I have 4 questions on what do we do, where's the information, how do we get it?
Are you on the septic work group?
Yes,
do have
but I don't need to know the word.
Do you read the emails?
I was gonna say, we're busy, we're back to septic.
Exactly. So, I mean, there's all kinds of information. And I found with NICEWAG, and even with the EMPC, or the MS4 partnership, if we do a calendar and say, this is what's going to happen, they come. So like when we tell people that next Tuesday, you're gonna learn how to do your water quality characterization report, which everybody is saying, I don't know how to do, then they're gonna be there. And is it online? No. Okay, the only person online is Ida, I'm sorry. She wouldn't drive up. But, that's, let's get it filled. And if it's, I always want to say Carl's group. Sorry. 20 years of him. But if we do that and set the agenda, then you know what you have to worry about, you know who else is going to be in charge of it, and it would make it easier, I think.
All right, thank you. I think we might want to move on. We have some official action, right?
Yes.
All right.
A really long time ago, we tried to make an EMPC strategic plan. We can do that again. Fun.
Oh.
You guys are really like, what are you talking about? We have relatively new commissioners to this committee.
Thank you for being here.
That was off agenda. So we're ready for informative. And I can yours. Okay. So we have two, a few months ago, September, we had a very small group that went back through our scoring criteria for two different categories of transportation grants that NERC has allocated some funding for. And I can't talk into this, so I'm going to this. So we have two categories of funding that we were charged with ranking projects for. We are not responsible for figuring out the money or what year we can afford the money in this community. We are responsible for deciding, recommending that we agree with the scores or the order of ranking. And then everybody's list will go to TPC, and then staff will try to make the money work basically from this point. The first pot of money that I wanted to talk about was the Protect. That's a new category. We put it in with the environmental. This is funding for resiliency projects for your transportation infrastructure. When we talked about this as a group, we didn't really change all of our scoring. We thought this would be ideal for planning grants because we thought people wouldn't have really looked at it yet. And we'd rather have people look at where their transportation infrastructure is vulnerable before applying for construction. But we were doing that right at the left. We didn't really have time to change what we put out there. So this is what we have received: two projects that we believe would be eligible for Protect funding. Here's what they are. One is from Cedar Lake. It's a project on 133rd Avenue where they do have a lot of data showing that road floods, and they are actually replacing a culvert with a box culvert, significantly widening the open space. And it's an area where a really long time ago we actually did a green infrastructure plan for them along the Clear Creek and Founders Creek corridor. So this would actually open up a blockage in the stream for fish and critter passage and more water passage. And so this project, it did not score very well because we have a lot of points in environmental justice and some other things, but so it scored 41, but the project to me, and this is my opinion, not my score, really fit what we had built the scoring in the environmental project category for: increasing connectivity, green infrastructure, preventing the transportation infrastructure from blocking water, blocking the natural flow of things. So, that's one project. And the second project we received is a little different. And I should say, for Protect funds, we have, in Group 1, which is Lake and Porter County, $700,000 a year. And we have $78,000 for LaPorte County. So the second project is the Army Corps of Engineers and Little Calumet River Basin Commission are working together to replace the Kennedy Avenue Bridge and make it higher and make it so they don't have to do manual sandbagging during high water in the Little Cal flood area. They have $12 million in funding. They're asking us for $310,000 to do the, basically the planning and the NEPAs.
That's all?
Yeah, they have all the rest of the money in place. So, I think that, you know, raising a bridge in a flood zone is a resiliency project. And I think it's leveraging a lot of funds. Leveraging isn't really a scoring criteria typically on these grants. At first, I was like, wait, they already planned to do the bridge. How can they do the NEPA now? Because they already know what they're doing. But it does sound like it is going to be the design, so they can still do mitigation in the planning. So anyway, it scored really high because it in Hammond, well, in Hammond, and the impact is huge. So although we're not responsible for the funding, we could afford both of these projects with maybe a year and a quarter's worth of funding. So, all of the, so, I guess my question is, do you guys want to look through the individual applications and the scoring, or are you comfortable making a motion to recommend these two projects for Protect funds based on what I just told you? And what we'll be doing is making a recommendation to TPC on this and on the air quality projects.
Okay, when you make the recommendation to TPC, and I'm referring to the Cedar Lake project, can you, and maybe it is in their application, define it better as what it's going to meet the requirements? Or ask them to do it, or Christopher Burke did it so they could update their.
Yeah, Christopher Burke.
Because I agree with you that if that's what it says, I would vote for that, and obviously I think the Hammond one, I would vote for that also. Let's see.
Oops. So you can see, right, so here's another, you can see all this green space.
Yeah.
And if that's a regular pipe culvert and they replace that with a box culvert, that significantly expands the space for all things to go through. And they do have records of the road flooding.
Okay.
So.
I can testify to that.
Yeah.
Okay,
And-
can I make a motion to put both of these through?
Absolutely. You may make a motion.
I just asked on the Kennedy Avenue, I know they put out the bid and what came in way higher than they thought it would. These numbers are the new numbers, I hope, as far as their estimates.
Well, they've asked us for a certain amount of money. They have a lot of other money. If it comes out over, then they would have to cover it.
Okay.
I mean, that's what I think. I think,
Yeah.
and we're not doing any of the construction is what's coming up really high because of cost of fuel and asphalt and stuff.
It was way higher than they thought, I think.
Yeah, I don't know that the planning and engineering part would yeah, we're just getting.
So, yeah, we'll go ahead.
And I'm staying on script this time, but I sit on the TPC, so help me out. If we make a recommendation and this goes to TPC, do we run the risk of anybody at TPC who's not engaged in thinking environmentally, coming back and saying, wait, their score's only 41, why should we consider?
Good point.
Well, both the typically bridge projects are funded out of STBG, which is the Surface Transportation Block Grant. So in Protect, they're the only two applications that are eligible. In STBG, they're competing with everybody else for everybody else's road project. So in essence, we're helping everybody by taking them out of the regular road money and giving them this new category of money. So
You said it's a new category?
yes, Protect is brand new in the infrastructure bill.
Okay.
So I think it just, basically, because Protect was the money we were to score and allocate, we're
That's what I was
saying,
trying to think of earlier. Was the Protect one,
Yeah.
Sorry.
we're, that we're basically, recommending that these be funded with those Protect funds.
That's helpful.
So I could only, if this was competing with another project with a higher score for surface transportation, I think it would be a sad fate, so. And I'm excited just because we worked on that, greenway before.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we have, there was a motion for these?
We have a motion. Is there a second?
You have a motion already?
Yeah, Reggie made a motion.
Okay.
All right, George, seconds. Any discussion? Any more discussion? Any discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. And again,
I'm excited to do something in the PVC basin, because everything, God bless coastal. We need to do a lot of stuff down
There
there.
is no other watershed.
Okay, the next list is longer and harder.
Oh, really?
Could I interject something? I just got a message back from Mary Candace. She doesn't know that she's still on the committee, but she's on the AIM legislative group, so I'm guessing that she will still be retained for the legislative group. Last time I talked to Richard Hardaway, he didn't have the list updated. When I talked to Ty, they were probably gonna pretty much roll over. The only thing I know is that I'm still on chairman of land use. That's the only thing I know.
okay, well, you know, this commissioner's opinion is it would be useful to have a legislative committee meeting and discuss things, I guess. That's just one person's opinion. All right.
Okay, so the next category that this committee is responsible for is the air quality category, which is congestion mitigation air quality funds that are not associated with transit or roadways or non-motorized transportation. So, as you can tell by that there's a lot of fingers in the CMAQ pie. We don't have the whole pie. And earlier things, I tried to give us the whole pie, and I was reminded literally like yesterday that the 50 plan does have a targeted amount out of CMAQ for these projects. And then we have a new funding. So first, we always had congestion mitigation air quality funds, and now we have the addition of carbon reduction program funds. So for the Lake and Porter County group, we would have allocated to air quality projects $2.8 million per year. But the CMAQ funding is pretty much, because of inflation of project bids, it's fully programmed all the way out to 2028. But apparently, there's no new CMAQ money. There is a possibility of projects slipping out and getting delayed. And the vehicle projects are easy to slip in. So I think it's strategic to approve more projects than we can afford, so that they have the option to put them in the queue if another project drops out. That's a strategy. But anyway, so we have $2.8 million in congestion mitigation air quality, and 1.8 million in, carbon reduction program. So, this did not add up right. So we have 1.8 million in 24, 25, 26, and 27 in the carbon reduction funds. And then in 28, we have the 2.8 plus the 1.8. Anyway.
So what you sent us here is not the same that's up there.
No.
Oh,
But here's the actual list of projects. So this is just to say, so telling you that we have between $2 and $4 million a year, and we have $12 million worth of projects. Is the point to say that the scoring here matters a little more than it did with the other one. That's really, also worth noting is that LaPorte County is a different group and only competes against each other. For our purposes here, so I don't know whether you want to go through each of these. Each applicant submits a self-score. And then we had a peer review meeting in January where we got to discuss, I asked some questions, sometimes more information was provided. Most of the scoring that ended up changed in some cases for our purposes, the interpretation of useful life was the whole life. Okay, you're getting an electric vehicle, and you're going to drive it. If you're going to drive it for 15 years or use it for 15 years, you get 15 years of reduction. Whereas if the calculations for a different funding source only gives you the useful life of the whole vehicle you're retiring. That's very complicated. Anyway, I was giving most of the projects more useful life years than the applicants. So some of them got more points for that, but I was a little more stringent on whether it was really connected and really boosting the connected points. So sometimes they end up lower, sometimes they end up higher. Like I said, so these are the scores that, so we have the option, we can change the scores, we can accept the peer review scores. We can go through each one and see what I did. The only other scoring criteria the only one that I felt like we ended up scoring slightly different than the intent of the MPC. We had a criteria for having plans, like the municipality has an energy conservation plan, the municipality has a climate action plan, the municipality has some other air quality plan, or green building incentives or something. We ended up, a lot of communities submitted that they had done projects, energy efficiency projects or of that nature. I ended up giving them points for for projects, even though our intent was that they have a whole program or plan. It ended up equaling out because pretty much nobody had a plan or program, but everybody had projects. So it wasn't a good discrimination point question because everybody was either yes or no.
Can you print that page out for us? Because that's not what we have.
It's not what you have.
And the numbers are considerably different on here that you sent us. I'm sure you've made some changes.
Oh, I think you got, yeah, maybe I sent the wrong one to Flora. Or the wrong page.
Kathy, I can run and do
I can make it bigger.
That's nice.
Oh,
You have it handy that you can send it to me.
yeah, do you guys want the whole thing, or do you want just the, oh, I was making notes too. How many vehicles?
Yeah, the note could comment, if you could make that a little bigger so we can remember what we talked about.
Okay, you know what we'll do. I'm gonna hide a bunch of this stuff.
Yeah, but aren't those things that we want to read?
Not these ones.
Oh, all right.
I'm trying to make it fit better on a page.
Are you gonna print straight from there?
I think I can. Oh. You have to do Canvas, it's gonna be to my box.
Okay, well, if you could just pull it up so we could read what the comments were, because you don't have comments
I
on the
can
sheet.
totally do that. Canvas is right there. And I put it 29 pages. Let's do it.
Do you want to go on a drive and I can?
I'm trying to make just a PDF of the part I want to show, and so that would be it. Uh,
I'm reading my computer.
okay. This one I didn't bring up. This one. I will read the notes to you as we go talk about the project.
All right.
Okay. The first project is very interesting. Lake Station is offering to be the sponsor for a combined total of 80 vehicles, electric vehicles, for jurisdictions in Lake and Porter County. How many jurisdictions are in that list? 16? So it's really like a big project that
Yeah.
will,
So it's 25.
25. So 25 jurisdictions would end up with 80 electric vehicles plus plug-in capability. So it's a significant step, I think, towards electrifying municipal fleets around the region.
Why would Lake Station volunteer to do this?
I think that
So
they answered the phone the day that.
So they partnered with the city of Hobart
Yeah,
on the city of Hobart's application
okay.
to apply for a multi-use compressed natural gas truck. And they didn't have to put their own truck or own application in. So it's a group partnership across the board. Additionally, they applied for 20 public level 2 charging stations over 16 counties, or excuse me, 16 cities, municipalities with this. So the 80 vehicles are priced at municipal Sourcewell. If you're not familiar with Sourcewell, it's qualitative purchasing agreements based on a Ford Lightning with the extended battery life with the high-powered fleet charging application, charging station. So it's 80 of those trucks plus the necessary higher powered infrastructure, and then 20 level 2 charging stations that go across 16 municipalities.
They just authored it.
Correct.
A few of the point, just things like they, some of the committees are EJ, some are not. They don't know exactly where all the charging stations will be. We, have points for filling gaps between public charging stations. A lot of these might not be public because they're not public, mess with their police card or whatever. But so I gave them like 5 because some of them couldn't be public. They haven't decided yet, so I gave them hard points. This one had a total.
So the total points on here, it says after staff review, what is the total points you gave them?
So 87. It has pretty good emission, it has good carbon emission reduction and good emission reduction, not as much help because they're replacing gasoline with electric, not diesel. But the diesel projects get you more health benefits, which is where we put most of our economic benefit points, but, so that's that one.
It's just a,
That one is the highest scoring project.
and to piggyback on what you're saying, the vehicles are not going to be used for the town clerk to go deposit checks, the mayor to drive around at parades. It's for real world use. It's going to be in the police fleets. It's going to be with the public works departments. It's going to get annual mileage that is significant versus a pretty little thing that they post on Facebook.
However,
However,
during the parade,
Yeah.
mayors can ride.
hey, they'll not parades, man. But no, how does the local match work? I think that, or if it's 80
So-
or multiple billion?
So presumably, well, they will, Lake Station will have to have an MOU with each of the municipalities. And I'm gonna recommend to them, they do what we do with buses, is we don't order the bus until we have the 20% cash in the bank. So, that's what I would do if I was Lake Station, but they can figure out their thing. So that's the highest scoring project, and it's probably the most impactful just because it's so many different communities. How are they gonna put, if they have a pickup truck and they want to arrest someone, where are they gonna put
In the back, chained down.
them?
So
They're double seats, right?
yes, it's a crew cab,
Yeah,
and it's a pretty big cab.
okay.
So the
It was
Ford,
irrelevant to the air quality benefit, I just wondered.
so the Ford Lightning is pursuit rated, meaning they do have them spec for police right out the gate with all of the additional equipment that would be, that is needed to help out with the police on a day-to-day between all the different computers, the lighting and such. So they do already have that Ford, that's why we use that one for this. And that was the pricing that we came out with. And then, yes, so it's a big vehicle. All it is a Ford F-150 chassis, different powertrain. That's all it is.
One more question. The chargers are good, right, for the future? Carl did a discussion on different chargers and how there's a dispute on where they're going and what's happening. I mean, these will be able to be used for other vehicles in the future.
Yes, so the chargers that are included in the total cost of the trucks are the 19.2 kilowatt Ford chargers. They are a J1772, that's just the universal charger. That's the exact same ones that are out there. So they're going to be able to use those for level 2, level 1 charging. But on the DC fast charging, if needed, they can use the CCS, and the combined charging. That is the universal one across the board. And then the level 2 charging stations that would be public are based on a 19.2 kilowatts versus the power out here is 7. So they will be able to charge overnight. And one of the things to talk about, you have with a lot of these police departments, you have a take-home vehicle. How is that going to work out now? But with this, the charger comes with it. We can have a separate meter installed at the officer's house if needed. And those are different things that NIPSCO is able to partner on with as well.
So that's the highest scoring project. I think it's gonna be a little complicated, but it also kind of has the advantage that because we don't have that amount of money in 1 year, it seems like easy to split out with 16 different communities.
Can you just make that bigger?
Yes, I have.
Okay, and the reason I'm saying that is because on this sheet,
Yeah, I don't have that.
you don't have the staff scores.
Yeah.
So I'm looking, when we did this before,
Yeah,
and the LaPorte County alternative fuel score was 98, but I'm looking there, and it is 86, dropped down, okay. after your
Are
peer
you sure
review.
LaPorte County was that?
This is the LaPorte County, or the city, I'm sorry, city of LaPorte vehicles.
That was the self-score she referred
Yeah,
Yeah, they had the self-score of 98 and we came out with 86.
okay.
Do you want me to pull that up?
No, I'm just making sure I'm on the same page.
Which, was it LaPorte City or LaPorte County that had all the diesel?
to. That was the city.
Yeah,
Okay, so there are a bunch of so, this is maybe more nuanced information than you need, but, so the CMAQ, we have official policy from Federal Highway that CMAQ funds can only fund the incremental cost of alternative fuel vehicle. So if you're buying, so you can take a regular, I don't know, please present an example, a regular garbage truck and a CNG garbage truck, and in CMAQ dollars, you can only pay the added cost for the fact that it's a CNG instead of diesel. In carbon reduction program, they're not making that restriction. So we could fund the entire vehicle out of carbon reduction funds. That means we can fund, that's good for you if we fund your vehicle, not as good for us because we can't fund as many. So that's part of why we're not gonna really do the money here, because it's gonna be really complicated to break them out. But the problem with the diesel is not eligible for carbon reduction. And so then you can only pay the incremental cost, and there really isn't any incremental cost from an old diesel to a new clean diesel, because it's still a diesel. So there's nothing to fund. So a bunch of LaPorte project, city LaPorte project kind of falls out as ineligible. That's one of the reasons they're points. John, but that we could partially fund it, we're gonna break that down. And then they have a bunch of EV electric vehicles in that one for staff, like their MS4 person, building inspector, people that drive around the community a lot. Do you want to go through each of these, or you want me to go through comments? So, okay, the second one in the list is the Green Fleet and Air Quality Public Education Program. This is a little harder to score. It's harder to count the emissions because all the projects they help for Green Fleets get their emissions counted for the project. So, but we consider it integral to having any of this. So, I would like to. I don't really have a lot to say about that. People might have comments about that. Pretty much, NERC retains Partners for Clean Air and pays federal share for them to purchase promotional items and educational materials that pertain to transportation in some way, or some of the messages we want people to do, like that island. And we fund like the bike maps and the bike map app if it ever shows up on the Google Play Store and the one. That's what we're waiting for. And then Drive Clean Indiana does Green Fleets, which is working with all the different municipalities and other fleet operators, schools, to keep inventories of what they have, what's eligible for funding, what's the best way to manage for your needs. They do a lot of behind the scenes work for municipalities to have these applications for like VW and stuff.
well, is there enough funds to fund all of these?
No.
Okay, so do you want us to eliminate some of them?
No, well, that's my question. Do you want to go over the whole score, the whole list? Do you want to hear about all of them and revise the order? Do you want to argue about the, talk about the different points? How do you want to handle that? It's a lot of projects. I don't think we have enough funding for all of them. Unless some of them might end up being split over multiple years. So, let me just look at this. This is actually probably the best. Portage, doing 14 diesel vehicles, mostly refuse haulers, with CNG.
When do we need this decision made?
Well, we can recommend, we can not recommend, we can, the suite needs to go to TBC. If there's, I guess if there's any you don't wanna fund, we should take them out now. Otherwise, it goes to,
So we don't wanna say don't want to fund.
okay. But you
Yeah,
think
I was
the
just
scoring
gonna
is
say
competitive. So the one that is scoring, you can see there's a pretty big drop off. Well, the two, the East Chicago and Hobart Lake Station are pretty low. Right, because LaPorte competes against LaPorte, so.
LaPorte County competes against City of LaPorte.
And Michigan City, yeah.
And Michigan City, that's right.
So there's three different, I should have put a line in.
Can I make a question though?
Yes.
Talking, what I was saying, is the ZED project that Lake Station is sponsoring, is that tied to the City of Hobart Lake Station, CNG truck?
No, that's a
infrastructure
totally
thing?
different project.
Okay, because you mentioned, well, kind of saying that that's why the station is sponsoring the first one is because of the
Well,
CNG truck.
they were available to sponsor that one because they didn't have a project in, because Hobart was putting in a CNG project. That makes sense? So that project, Hobart already has a CNG refuse haulers and CNG infrastructure for their own public works. They want to expand that and have more filling stations and some faster filling stations. And then Lake Station was gonna get more CNG haulers.
They were gonna get a new CNG truck that's associated with their refuse and recycling collection.
Okay, they're
And they don't have one already.
So then,
They do have a diesel model, but it is old, it's not suited for what they need.
But the Lake Station project, you identified 80 trucks with 20 charging stations. Those
they're all EV,
Those are light duty.
all light duty EV, gas to electric.
but those are going to people that maybe don't already have them, or that they do have them.
They're replacing, with those ones, they're replacing gasoline,
Okay,
light duty
okay.
with all electric.
I'm
There are
thinking,
some projects,
The gas,
Sorry,
the gas then come off the book.
That is
yeah,
correct.
gas totally off
Yes.
the book.
that's what I was trying to
Yeah.
think, where that benefit comes from. That
Not
seems to
added
be,
to the.
yeah, the biggest benefit.
Right.
So these trucks cannot be resold or reused by anybody else?
No, they have to kill them.
Go to a scrapyard. Get to scrap.
And that is documented in the
Yes.
grant award?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
I think that's a fact that needs to be better explained to people, because I think more people are in line with what Jenny was going after, is this, in addition to the fleet or not?
That's a good point, because every community has once a year, the sale of their old trucks.
Right, half of them sit in the front yard here.
I think that's pretty clear, that's in the, I mean, you guys talk to them, and you have to drill holes in the engine blocks or.
Oh, absolutely, we document that all.
Everybody- And I think everybody knows that.
Do not assume everybody knows that.
Right.
I mean, sadly, I
Well,
read
but
a
you
lot
can
of
spend
articles.
hours one-on-one with them, you tell them that when they.
You have an applicant right here. Mike,
Yes.
did you know you have to dispose of the trucks by putting a hole in the engine block?
Hell yes.
That's because Mike's getting the money. I'm talking about the people that don't know.
Yes.
I think there are more people who are assuming that these trucks are not being taken out, because, and I'm pointing out the misinformation that's put out in newspaper articles and magazine articles, as far as, these dollars are going to, but not really, because these older vehicles are going on to a selling, opportunity. I've got industries who are giving their older trucks after they get to a certain mileage to various nonprofit organizations in Northwest Indiana, because it's a good thing to do. They're not going to drive it any further, but for their fleet requirements in these communities, groups can still use them.
Pretty sure industries did not get federal funds to.
What didn't get federal
Did
funds?
not get federal funds to purchase those vehicles. On the other hand, they may not, if they are replacing the vehicles because of some permit-related reason that they're supposed to have cleaner vehicles, they probably can't.
It's just a matter
I don't
of
know.
public education.
Yeah.
You've got to let people know that these vehicles are coming off the road. They're not going to be used.
So there's quite an extensive time period between, well, maybe not 2024, the time we put these in the tip and they actually happen and they have to sign papers. And so everybody will know that before they sign the papers. That is 100% certain. If they did not listen, which I won't say they didn't listen, if they didn't hear that part,
And the projects won't get paid out too.
yeah,
That's
Yeah.
part of the reimbursement, just like on the VW stuff.
yeah, you don't get reimbursed, so you don't get your money. So then you bought the new truck and don't get any money. So, there you go.
I think you guys are saying somewhat more public messaging too, so I
Yeah.
don't know if, press release goes out when these projects, at what stages,
Yeah.
but I
You
think
got
just
these new
making notes
vehicles
to make
and the
that
old
very.
vehicles are here, out of here, okay.
So I got a question on, so every year that the funding, becomes available, so at least on my list, is this correct? 3.6 million?
No, that's where I got, I was incorrect, that's how much, I thought that's how much CMAQ we had, but we actually have, in the fund allocation previously just determined, if it's during the 2050 plan, we said 1.8.
Okay,
Oh, that's a big difference.
so,
I know.
so that'll be every year going through, we think 2028? I'm just trying to figure out how this works in practice, so like,
I know,
I hate to see, well, just because one has a couple extra points, that they ain't all the money, we should divide it up, you know what I'm saying, up to the top, somehow. Seems fair to me.
well, I mean, we can split vehicles across the years, a lot of the projects, some aspects of them are fundable by CRP, and some are fundable by CMAQ. So, that's what I mean, we might have to like chop them up and fund them partially from here and there.
Has there been any discussion as far as inventory? I mean, are they going to be waiting for a couple of years to purchase things because there's just no inventory?
Yeah, what's the lead
That's
time?
a very good question. On the lead time of the Ford Lightnings, for example, we worked with the town of Port, they are interested in 6 of them. So they put an order in because you have to put an order in because you're not gonna get them. So they end up putting an order in. 2 of them are sitting in Portage right now. The other 4, they don't know when they are gonna be delivered, but they were told that those 6 would not be delivered until summer of 2023. And then they said, I don't know if they'll be delivered until '24. And then now they
They get
have
products.
2. that are
So they're
delivered.
giving everybody part of what they ordered and then who knows?
And then on the heavy duty side of the trucks, you can't just go down to a dealer and buy a truck. Lead times are 10 to 16 months now, especially on these refuse haulers. So, does that answer your question?
Oh, yeah, I mean, is that something like that's factored into spending forecasts like this?
Well, so that's why when he says the 80 trucks, you're looking at 80 trucks over a 5-year
Yes.
cycle. However, if they don't come out and they're not being made, it's longer than 5 years.
So it's kind of like an obligation thing that, okay, this is in the weeds, but,
With this one.
we have a certain amount of money program every year for 5 years.
Okay.
4 years is the tip, which is the federally important, has to be fiscally constrained and bound. So the first 4 years, we have to have every nickel spent. Anything we don't put in the program, any dollar we don't put in the program, can be sucked back down to Indianapolis. Unprofitable, not profitable.
So
Is there-
just
so
like,
we tend to
dedicate
do-
the funding, just dedicate it and then.
Yeah, so and then,
so
but we
then-
know some of the road construction projects will not make the year they're supposed to make because they have a railroad or their permit's expired and they have to start over or whatever reason, or, so then we'll end up, taking other projects from that off year. We start sliding projects forward, people who are ready to go sooner, can go sooner, and that project gets moved back out to the year, so the last year isn't constrained, but it's in the tip, so we can, it's already approved by NERC, so it can be administratively moved to a different year.
Okay, so to be fair with each one of these municipalities, even the ones that are joint applications, I'm like you. I don't want to tell East Chicago you can't have your project. You're one of my clients, I'll get fired. No. But I
Strike
mean,
that.
looking at a ranking, you've got the numbers here, okay? So why can't we just say that we'll fund these based on the numbers? And we'll go right down the list. You're the highest one, which is 87, I'm not even gonna look at the name, and say they're the top, and then 86, then 84, and just do it that way. And we're not looking at who's doing it because we know that each one of these have some type of air quality benefit to them.
That's totally awesome, we can do it.
Okay, all in favors?
So, under that scenario, the Lake Porter County ZEV project could get it all, if they get 1.4 million every year of vehicles. Or most of it. Right?
Yeah, they could.
Yeah, that's
My
true.
other,
And that's what we wanna do. I mean, that's across both counties, so I think that's nice.
I mean, you make your recommendations here,
yeah,
and then you decide the years that will be funded and spent.
Yeah.
And then a portion too.
Yeah.
And then it's, you go to the full bid commission to present them, correct?
yeah.
Okay, with that idea, could we take that Lake and Porter County one and say we're going to fund it, like 1/2 or something, and then go to the next one down and?
See what the ratios are, percentages are. and
Yeah.
Put it on the.
We could say, we don't wanna do your police cars 80/20, we could, I mean, this is up to NERC, we could say, we're gonna do vehicles 50. Then they get half the vehicle, which is still a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
And spread the money around. We
Okay.
have never made that decision to do that. The road people always say no whenever we suggest that. When all the inflation started happening, Charles started, I think, actually, yeah, you were on TPC. We started asking people, would you rather, go 70/30? And so then everybody can still be funded? And they all said, no, we want to keep 80/20.
Is there a question in the application to that effect? Would you accept partial funding or is it an all or nothing thing? I feel like in
It
the
is-
other environments.
It's at the bottom.
It's at the
Yeah.
bottom, yeah, or.
It's the last question and answer.
Yeah, it has to do with, you can do 20 minimum, you can also pay for a local match if you want to.
Yeah,
You
you
get more points.
you
I
can pay
think
more.
that's what Ryan, is
But
that what
does-
you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Does it make sense if you change that percentage, more people get funding? If we go to 70/30?
Well, but we are a grantee-led organization. The people that are receiving the funds are the people that fund on what we do.
Well, and also,
Why are we talking
how
about this?
big
We
of
advise.
how big of the scoring criteria is the actual emission reduction summary? I mean, that's what we optimally should be looking
Yeah,
at.
I actually want to look at each project because
So if you've got, 80 car things.
So let's go through the scoring here. Okay, so we have 80 points. 80 points for connecting more people or connecting the fuel infrastructure, but I think this wasn't gonna be public fuel infrastructure in Chicago. So, they got 5 points though, because, it's less than 5 miles from the others and limited but shared access with other entities, so.
Yeah.
We didn't give them the full points, we gave them like the half points. The, population, these are, street sweepers, are electric. So I figured they were gonna drive the entire community, so they would operate within 1,000 feet of all those things at some point. And they have like sidewalk sweepers too. At one each. Okay, so we give them points for, economic benefits are based on health, which is based on the emission reduction. Also, emission reduction total, so they get points in Q3 up to 5, points in Q5 up to 10, and points in Q6. And like we have 4 or 5 questions that are different connection to the pollution reduction. And what is cost per kilogram?
So there's not like one overarching reduction number that we could look at each of these projects individually and say, okay, they're gonna reduce 10 tons per year, they're gonna reduce a half a ton a year. Comparison.
You could, well, so we have, up to 10 points for carbon reduction, and then we have up to 10 points for criteria pollutants, NOx, VOC, particulate. So that's kind of,
Okay, so if you were to take this list that you gave us and use only those 2 scoring criterias, how would they pan out?
I don't know, I have to do that.
I mean, that's air quality. That's what we're supposed to be focusing on. And, you know,
Well, we did set these criteria.
Right,
for the group.
Yeah.
does that
So-
become an issue if we've set
I
that?
don't-
I mean, it's something to
Yeah.
consider for future applications
Yeah.
if we want to revise that.
I'm just curious. I mean, I sit on TPC, so I'll be experiencing this conversation then too, as far as how to divvy it up. And I was there when they were asked, would you do 70-30? And they were like, Because it's hard enough for them to have their matching funds as it is, and
Yeah.
to ask them to come up with an additional 10 on a project that they're bringing in, assuming that the scoring is going to remain as it is, and I'm not even a municipality person anymore, puts them in a really tough position to go back to their mayor and say, this great project we sold you on and you've been talking about and bragging about, we need, 10% more money from the local share standpoint. So let's try to figure it out and help that committee a little bit by giving them something significant to say why one gets it all or why one shouldn't get it all.
Is that criteria that can be explained in TBC just by adding another column?
Yeah, I mean, I
The
can explain that, I
criteria.
mean, it's sort of what, when I look at this, so we have up to 10 points for tons per useful life of air quality, per pollutants, and we have up to 10 points for carbon reduction.
Right.
So the electric vehicle projects end up getting both of those.
All 10 points?
Well, they get, it depends on the mileage and all that stuff for the vehicles, but, they get points in both categories because they're reducing all the emissions. But
And
like a CNG project, so this is what happened in Chicago, is like, why is East Chicago scoring lower? That's the EJ community, they should score higher. But they didn't get as many points for carbon because part of their project is CNG, which doesn't reduce carbon as much as they could because CNG is still a fossil fuel. So,
I mean, those are answers that you can legitimately get.
right.
Is what I'm saying.
That's
Is
what I'm saying,
asking. So-
I can explain that, why some projects score higher than others. It's very clear, if you look, oh, that's an electric project, oh, that's a CNG project, because, and then,
That makes it simpler for
Right.
them to understand.
right, and like a gas to electric is zero emission reduction, but the gasoline cars don't have that much of the emissions anyway. Cars are pretty clean, so, I mean, but the carbon still ends up, so they're not as dirty.
Question,
Yes.
just out of curiosity. So the vehicles that they are essentially swapping these for.
Yeah.
Is there any analysis as to when they were last driven? Because
Yes, that's taken into consideration.
You know, they
Going
tend to
back-
sit on some junk vehicles for a while, and this is a great way to clean out the junk, and add to their fleet.
So, like I said, is who do we want driving these vehicles? We don't want the town clerks depositing checks.
No,
But that-
I'm talking
But that's on the
about,
back
right,
end,
like-
but on the front end, it has to be a like for like. So it can't be a police vehicle, it can't be a 1998 Crown Vic
Right,
that's been, you know,
sitting for 5 years.
now the dog catcher's driving around using it. No, it has to be an in-use vehicle.
An in-use vehicle.
Yes.
Okay, that's cool. That's a good one.
So that's part of it.
I mean,
It's not a cash report.
Right.
most of the emissions, and there, some of the projects are using different emission reduction calculators, but they put in, you know, the vehicle miles traveled per year, and they put in the,
Fuel usage.
yeah, the usage. So, I mean, that is part of the emission reduction calculation. I feel like if you also counted it again, you'd be double counting the same thing. That's kind of why we focused on the emission reduction for that very reason. But we do have a cost per ton, so if you're reducing a ton of bad, you know, methyl alkyl death, which none of these are for methyl alkyl death, but if you're reducing a ton of methyl alkyl death for $100 or $10,000, which ton would you choose? That's also a scoring criteria, but it's not the only scoring criteria. So we try to balance stuff. I was gonna go find the calculations, but I really don't think we need to do that. Yeah, I mean, I could explain most of these.
And as it relates to the CNG projects, then you have to remember where these garbage trucks, recycling trucks are going every day in your neighborhoods. If you ever get stuck behind an old dirty diesel, you smell it, you can see it. With these compressed natural gas trucks, you can't see it, they're quieter, they're as fuel efficient, and with recent calculations done with the city of Hobart, they are paying less than $1 per gallon on their CNG. Significantly less. They have been paying over the year of 2022, over $5 for diesel.
Okay, what is their payout as far as maintenance goes?
Better. 27% maintenance. You don't have your DEF, you don't have your DPF. You do have spark plugs now.
They started.
Oh, they start?
In
Yeah,
cold
that's good.
weather?
In cold weather, absolutely.
So, I think
Fun.
that, but I think like, for example, one of the reasons the Hobart Lake Station project scored lower than some of the others is that it's an expansion project. They already have CNG infrastructure.
That's right.
They're expanding their infrastructure, but so it's already kind of there, so it's not filling a gap. But it's a good project. But it scores the lowest, right? So we can either use drop points or do like you said and just kind of roll down through.
You like to see people that are entering the field new. And then you have to plan ahead for how you're gonna add to it or whatever, but these initial funds to people that are communities, I should say, municipalities that don't have anything and that are, or have real old ones that are replacing it. I don't know. I look at you as far as giving some type of criteria here, as you help all these communities.
Oh, absolutely. And on the diesel side, so let's take, for example, for the city of LaPorte, those tandem axle dump trucks, all they do is haul the digestate from the wastewater treatment plant to a farm. That's all they do. They don't score well. But then you have the garbage trucks that are in your neighborhood every single day, spewing out emissions, going either 1.6 to 2.3 miles per gallon. It's not efficient, and if we can replace those that are going high mileage every year and high fuel usage, that's where the greatest emission reductions are at, especially in EJ territories.
So why don't we just go by that?
Well, that's my
And this goes by, this is mostly air quality. All
Yeah.
the points are associated with air quality.
And I wonder if, at at a point, Kathy and I are keeping a list for this and the other environmental applications. Hey,
Let's
next
pick
time
next
we
time.
revise this application,
Right.
you know, here are some things that we need to consider, and maybe that's a conversation that needs to be had. But at the same time, a lot of these things are factored in. Could they be toggled next time? Perhaps, but we are at a point where they have been ranked by the criteria as they were listed. We brought them to an applicant review, peer review session, and went through and, you know, got into it over, oh, I think I should get more points here, oh, the rest of the group doesn't, and came to those scores. So there is a certain level of,
So if you've done all
the
that.
scores are the
Yeah,
scores.
I will say that for all of the applications, for all the project types, when we did this off the 2050 plan, we were trying to fill that matrix. So we were trying to have points for connected and maybe connecting things. We were trying to have points for environment, clean, renew. We were trying to have points for vibrant. So it was designed around that, but this is the environmental committee, and we do in fact have more points for the environmental benefits than the other stuff. But we have points for those other stuff, so that we can show that.
Yeah, I feel like the nature of the criteria and appropriateness is a conversation that has been had and needs to be had again. But I don't think, we're not in a position where we can like change and say, oh, we want to
that
put
was
it in
the-
this
So why
category.
don't we just take your recommendation, the 3 top projects here that scored 87, 87, and 86, and take a look at those, and those would be the primary projects to fund.
Another kind of minutiae question, just cause, you know. So, is it factored in for the garbage trucks where they're hauling to a transfer station as far as the reduction? So like Michigan City takes their trash to Chesterton to the transfer station, so that impacts other communities as well. And so I see that as a benefit to another county, another community.
A larger benefit?
Yeah, that
Is
could
that
be
captured?
listed as like a cross jurisdiction.
Is that yeah, I mean, that's a,
It's not really, so we have points for within 1,000 feet of a school bus or a fueling station or someplace people idle. But I ended up giving everybody that because everybody has,
or like where you're safe hauling to, you know, a farm.
I haven't for partnerships.
Is it only within the county, does it go outside the county?
Yeah, it's on, yeah, I get what you're saying, yes. And just to be honest, and, you know, that's hard to track across the board, but if they are affecting an EJ community, that is taken into consideration. Versus, and I don't like saying this one is better than the other, but going to a farm in the middle of nowhere,
I'm trying to
or
see
going to
how,
a downtown area with apartment buildings and so on.
Well, I mean, the transfer station's in the actual neighborhood, so.
Oh,
It is adding more to the truck traffic in another community by having a transfer station.
absolutely, absolutely.
There's a time limit for them to submit these, correct?
Short time.
Okay, short time limit. Do we keep track of the first, second, third, and fourth that came in?
Oh, my gosh.
Why is that, oh my gosh? If somebody sits down and gets it all done, and then the first guy in, and everything else numbers out?
I guess I'm just looking at it way too simply in my mind, and that's, we've got a limited amount of money each year to give out.
Right.
So which one is the best of these projects from an air quality standpoint? Air quality is what, from our perspective and recommendation, is what should be pushing us, because that includes the health, welfare, et cetera. And
well, then we have to rebuild the whole application. We can't do that because we gave people points for other stuff. Because we were trying to use this funding to incentivize other things, like being part of Partners for Clean Air, or forming partnerships with other people and don't just go off on your own. So like,
Conducting a green fleet audit.
yeah, being a member of Green Fleet, so you know what all your vehicles are and where the most bang for your buck is and where the most benefit is to.
But if you did that, and that's what they were supposed to, you've made a lot more categories in here. You can't kind of just go to air quality and eliminate all those categories that you gave people points for.
But there are also, Kathy, significant, I mean, is it fair to say that there would be probably like high point value, potential point value for those direct air quality things?
That should be the highest.
Is that the
highest
case? I mean, I
there
would
are.
assume that's the case.
That
Yeah,
is,
that is the case.
Yeah, so generally, I mean, the ones that are, we may be talking about a point difference here for some of them, but the highest ranking ones,
should,
pretty
they
confident.
should get them. Especially in the highest ranking air quality, but then also the highest ranking in the environmental justice areas. You know,
Well, that's what I was kind of trying to figure out, do those match? I didn't ask my
I
question right
can't figure
earlier.
that
I
out.
don't know, I'd have to do a lot more analysis.
But
So you've shown us a whole bunch of numbers, but the one project that you said that would take up all the money over a 5-year period of time, that's the
That's the lake station.
Culvert Lake Station, trucks and
Border.
infrastructure.
No, it's the Lake and Border County ZEB project.
Oh, okay.
Lake station's just the applicant.
Right.
is it true, though? We're sure about that. The CRP money that you have listed here, that's not accurate. So it's 1.4 million a year that we're deciding on.
The one on the paper is not accurate.
Okay.
I
just wanna
was
make sure.
literally on the phone with Charles last night, like, what is happening? Why are you telling me these numbers are so much less than the numbers I thought?
And all of those vehicles, Kay, are garbage trucks. I know that's not the correct term, but they're the waste hauling trucks that are gonna have the biggest impact in the neighborhoods.
No,
Well,
those are the
I
electric.
don't
right?
dispute.
They don't have electric, they have, so garbage trucks don't have electric, right? They have CNG.
CNG.
Yes, the garbage trucks on here are all CNG.
The Lake and Porter County ZED project that we're talking about, the 4.5 million or whatever.
So let me just be honest, these all came from Drive Clean Indiana,
Yeah.
and then the one that was submitted by themselves, I sent them by email, and they submitted it themselves,
And who was that?
City of LaPorte.
Okay.
So with that, when I did the application. So with that being said, there are some things that can be cut down, and so the money can go farther. We put in these applications with a higher dollar amount requested because that's what was the information at the time. Now that the dollar amount has come back significantly, I think there is an opportunity to take out some of these vehicles that didn't score well. Because I'll be honest with you, some of these vehicles, they don't score well. But still maintain the purpose of this funding is for air quality. There are opportunities to make the dollar go farther. And in a case that everyone wants in Lake and Porter County.
Okay, that's great, but how do we rank the projects?
You have to rank the projects based on the criteria that you have already chose. You can't go back in time and say, well, maybe they deserve an extra point. We had that meeting in January.
Right.
So,
But wait,
No,
these-
but you actually can, that is something you can do here.
Okay.
We can talk through why we gave the points we did, and you can argue back about them.
But that's when we thought we had 3 or 5 million a year to spend, so things have changed. I mean,
Yes.
in my mind.
So let me give you a good example, would be like, going back to the Lake and Porter County ZEB project, is there's 2 communities that have multiple, the whole purpose of that ZEB project was to get the communities to buy an electric vehicle, electric truck. Dip their toe in the water, get accustomed to it, make sure that they're comfortable with it. Because if we don't have the opportunity to fund a higher price item that is focusing on air quality, then they're not gonna do it. They can get a Dodge Charger for $29,000. These Ford Lightnings are $52,000, all electric. So with that being said, the funding is needed in order to dip their toe in the water. And we can cut down some of these projects because the larger communities, they have a large fleet. They buy 30, 50 light-duty vehicles as a community annually. We can cut that down significantly so that everyone can benefit. Doesn't matter if you're Dune Acres, or if you're Hammond, or East Chicago, or Hobart, you deserve to have the opportunity to have these zero-emission vehicles in your fleet to make sure that they can hold up to real-world operations.
Or like Michigan City.
They're on there.
Okay,
And
so
that's
with
basic.
that philosophy then, does this pretty much spell out the way we should score them? I mean, the order that we should recommend?
I think that it can, the scores are what the scores are.
Yeah,
But as far as being able to spread the money around, I think that is something that could be renegotiated or reallocated.
I mean, that's not unusual. I would say like, sometimes for a road project, people have to make it shorter to fit the budget, and then they just come in with another project for the other chunk. I mean, in 2 years, you'll be back again with a better idea of what we're doing, what we really have in 28, and then we'll be programming 29, and then we'll be programming like 30 as the non-constrained year, right? So we do this every 2 years, so all the projects can come back. They can also go to other funding applications in the meantime, and some of them might just buy them themselves in the meantime, if they gotta wait till 28. So, that's part of the, the federal government requires us to plan this many years ahead, but the situation on the ground changes a lot.
Absolutely.
so then
The
you
mayor
can
comes
just
in and says,
go by your ranking, go by the peer review and say, this is our recommendation, but we're going to maybe allow for, what did you call it?
change it. Scope modification.
There you go.
Modification, okay.
With the regular commission, we're constantly amending the TIF.
Yeah, that's
This
what I
is
mean,
an
like,
amendment
every quarter.
that we can do and adjust depending on our advisors telling us the commission. So that's not unusual, and our goal is to spend every dollar that we have so we don't lose it to another outside government entity.
So you could understand then if this comes to you and we say, this is the way they rank right now, but we have a recommendation for the future and to make the money go farther for more people.
Right, and as Kathy said, every 2 years we do a NOFA or a notice of funding availability. We write the rules at that time, and we try to stick to them. We see the shortcomings because inevitably programs are changing, and we have to make adjustments. So please be patient with the staff because it's constant change.
That's another reason we went to quarterly meetings, so we only can do quarterly amendments.
Okay, so then if we're gonna go that, can we make a motion to accept this the way it's ranked and send it to the TPC with this format with your ranking?
That was your first motion, like.
I know, I'm going back.
Well, do you have?
2 hours later.
All right.
Do any of the people who have never been to one of these meetings have questions about this?
No, I got questions, I come to these meetings.
I would say like I would just look through the East Chicago project, because I was surprised it scored so low. But we don't have nearly as many points in the EJ as we have in the emission reduction. So
And then we need to relook at that.
yeah, we need to really look at that next time.
Okay.
So there's a motion.
There's a motion on the floor.
All right. Is there a second?
You already had a second, right?
We did, second.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's the same motion, but I seconded it.
Oh, you did? I did, you just spent so
I
long.
think we did. That's my knowledge and belief.
Okay.
All right, any discussion? Any discussion?
We had some.
We had a discussion.
Any other discussion?
Nick, once again.
No, hey, it's a lot of money, man.
Call for the question.
All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That motion from an hour ago.
So, because I'm having trouble reading the screen, can we go through and say which ones are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? As far as the
Yeah, so number 1 is the Lake Station sponsored Lake and Porter County ZEP project
Okay.
with a peer review score of 87. Number 2 is the Green Fleet Air Quality Public Education Supervisory Board.
Actually, the Green Michigan City.
It's different.
Oh, well, that's a different pot, so there's
I'm
2,
sorry,
right?
I can't see either.
I know, I'm sorry.
Okay, so number 2 is which one? The Drive Clean Green Fleets Public Ed?
Yes.
Okay.
Adding more columns to make it bigger. No. Then number 3 is Portage with 82. Number 4 is East Chicago with 75. I mean, that might be my only thing is ask TPC if we can do much. No, they won't go with that. Okay. That one also is different in that some of it is EV is CRP eligible and some of it is not, so like that could be split. Anyway, East Chicago is 4th at 75, and Hobart and Lake Station, CNG trucks and infrastructure is 5th, 1, 2, 4, 5, at 62. That's for the Lake and Porter. For LaPorte and Michigan City are tied at 86 points.
Our list.
And then the LaPorte County has 79 points. Now in those cases, they're not replacing a vehicle, but what they're doing is an employee who is driving their own vehicle and claiming mileage will now have an electric vehicle, so it ends up still replacing the miles.
I think also in there were vehicles for MSR
Yeah.
in LaPorte
For-
County.
Yes, in LaPorte County
Okay.
and city.
And City of LaPorte.
Okay.
Is that comment under Michigan City, should that be?
Michigan City,
Is that right?
Oh, yeah, it looks like.
oh, that comment's in the wrong line.
Yeah.
Who did that?
All right. Yeah.
The LaPorte City one is gonna be a lot less money when we take out all this diesel than our eligible,
Okay.
so. That will be.
The important one here is the LaPorte County, those green one, to get the vehicles.
According to Reggie. All right, any other discussion? Well, we made a motion, we discussed.
We voted.
It's been beaten.
Okay.
All right.
Kay just asked a question and she got the answer right.
Yes,
Okay.
1 through 5, I've got 'em.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Reports, Did we give our reports, anybody have a report?
Oh, I just remembered another thing.
Oh, what?
This is not a program, okay.
Wait, there's more.
No, remember back at the beginning when we did the Protect money, and we only had 2 projects?
Right.
And we could fund them with like a year and a half of money.
Right.
So that means we have 3.5 more years of money with no projects. So I talked to Charles, when we talked about this, when we were going through the scoring, we talked a lot about planning projects. That we thought it'd be a good idea for people to do, like vulnerability. Where are they vulnerable to natural disasters in their roads and stuff? So I talked to Charles about putting those out, putting out another like mini NOFA, because he also didn't get good safety projects. And maybe putting the Protect money back out for opportunities for just like, kind of like road stormwater management plans.
Yeah, we talked about that. That was before
We
the
talked
deadline.
about that, it might be
We only had like
beneficial to
a week.
MS4s in some ways. So after this 2-hour discussion, do we have an appetite to do that? Then we really would have to come up with new scoring criteria for those Protect funds, because we just,
There would have to be, because you're looking
Yeah.
at some municipalities, particularly I'm thinking of the coastal communities, that have some real issues with a discharge to the lake, with regulated drains, with all these things, and small communities that don't have a lot of money, that need help with this work, so.
But this is what I was talking about with Kay's comment about, the federal funding that's available, that we're not going.
so that was just to let you know
We can take money
that
to-
this might come back again for the Protect, just because we didn't get But I don't think there was really a lot of time and people had a lot of stuff going on to put together a planning application for something they never heard of before.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go back and work on Protect at another time?
We may, yeah,
Okay.
that was the only point, I'm sorry, now go back to no.
But we can think about it, start thinking about what you would want in that criteria, even with coastal stuff, whatever, okay?
We were a partner with Hawaii, there's a whole report page just that.
Okay, can I do it?
Yeah, we're to get to a report.
Okay. MS4 is doing a lot of things. The MS4 partnership itself, for those of you who are not aware, is made up of 182 municipalities in the state that are permitted, and hopefully the 52 new permittees. We're a not-for-profit, but now we're getting into providing a lot more education and outreach for communities and try to give them a big discount on this. So coming up for Northwest Indiana, on March the 7th in Maryville at the community building, we will have a contractors and developers workshop. This is required in the permit. So we'll be sending out to all municipalities a flyer that they can send to their contractors and developers. They get credit for it. They get credit on the permit compliance effort. And it's only a half a day, and it'll be a hands-on, basically looking at site inspections and plan reviews, okay? The second thing is March the 20th and 21st here in Northwest Indiana. IU is going to host this along with the city of Gary helping. We're going to have the NPDS Institute out of Georgia come in and provide the 2-day certification training for inspectors and contractors. We cover some of the costs with a scholarship. This way, they actually meet the criteria in the permit for having a trained inspector there. If you can't get to Gary, we're also then going to send him over to Fort Wayne, and on that Thursday and Friday, they'll be doing the same program in Fort Wayne. The MS4 annual meeting is May the 15th and 16th, 2 days. When I started this, I said we'd never go to more than 1 day, but we're 2 days because we have so many new MS4s that need to know how to administer a permit. So on Monday and Tuesday, we have Monday, we have 2 workshops, one for new permittees, and the second item is to do training on site inspections and plan reviews. And then the annual meeting is still Tuesday. That agenda will be posted on February the 14th on Valentine's Day. And you can sign up now, but you'll get to actually see everything. It's moved this year. It's not at the Marriott anymore. It's over in Plainfield at the Omni, which is Hilton, I guess, over there. And there's going to be lots of really good information on the new permit. And that's all I have.
So we're like,
Brown County, yeah. After the annual meeting, that Thursday and Friday, the training will be down in, not Brown County, but down in Evansville, doing 2 days in Evansville. So there are 3 things around the state. We're trying to set up a few more with the help of IU Cure program. We'd like to establish an NPDS training center here in Indiana is what we're going for.
do you have a list? I bet you presented this, the new MS4s in our 3 counties.
Yeah, I have it. I can send it to you.
That'd be great.
Yeah. There are some that are still trying to decide whether they're jumping on board or not. It's important to keep in mind when we come out, and I always tell this, particularly to the smaller MS4s, the permit specifically says you implement this permit to the best extent possible. So Michiana Shores is not going to implement it the same way Michigan City will. There's a lot of difference. The smallest one, I think so far that we have in the state is Potawatomi Park. and they're gonna go ahead and submit the permit. But there's so many things that they don't have to worry about, employees, municipal facilities. Their biggest concern are septic systems.
Yes.
So being able to deal with that, okay? I don't know why, I see you, I think septic.
Oh, after 20-some years.
I know. That's it for MS4, and except coming here. I'm excited about being able to supply some workshops that people will come. You're in a central location. We've even got some people that are interested that would come from St. Joe and Elkhart County, so it would be a good thing.
All right, Dave.
Ryan, partner report.
Yeah, so, got a lot of good things coming up. So we have the Community Energy Security Planning Grant. We had a webinar on this on the 31st. We have the slides available on our website. It's grants up to $50,000 that can help you plan with anything energy security related. If you're looking at anaerobic digester upgrades, stormwater plants, anything planning related, this can fit into this. Electric vehicle implementation. It's up to $50,000 in the cities, which are the only eligible entities to apply for this, only need a 10% match. So if you have to pay an engineering entity to do the study for you and you have to go out of pocket, you can do it at a very small cost.
Ms. Brett, this could also be like, for example, if you get a lot of power outages because of electric lines down, because of, I don't know, dead emerald ash borers, or you could look at,
Absolutely.
You could look at
Solar, energy backup with
What's the outcome of it supposed to be?
utilities.
it's to have a plan in place, so
For
the
what?
next step would be funding coming out to fund these projects.
You could bury your electric cables.
Okay.
That could be a project to fix that problem. If your problem is you're, I don't know, you're in a fort, you have a lot of trees, and so your electric lines go down all the time, you could bury them.
Remove the trees.
Yeah.
Potawatomi Park has 93% tree coverage, so they could look at this.
Yeah, do they have a lot of, so I think that, to me, when I listened to the whole thing, I thought, oh, if your community has a disproportionate number of power outages when, compared to others, that would be the people to look for this.
And if you're looking at putting, if a municipality is looking at putting solar at their multiple municipal buildings, this can help fund that too. The engineering that goes into all that. Once again, this is just a very, very broad scope of a project, but it's all focused on energy security, and it's a very broad subject. We have our Indiana Clean School Bus Consortium. Our first meeting is going to be February 7th, and it's EPA Region 5 office has asked Drive Clean Indiana to be the lead on this. It's a partnership with IDEM, US EPA, Department of Energy, Department of Education, and NERC, and we've had a lot of success with propane and electric school buses, and we will be having an electric school bus deployed at school town of Munster coming up here in this first quarter. So a lot of good things to come from this, but it's helping the schools be a clearinghouse for the different funding and implementation of cleaner fuels. We have the Energy Independence Summit in Washington, D.C. We will be meeting with our federal officials and related to the different departments of energy, EPA, Department of Ag, and DOT, and congressmen and Senate, congresspeople and senators. There is a Indiana Rural Sustainable Energy Day. There is going to be a lot of funding coming out from USDA, and that is a perfect opportunity to implement some of these larger projects in and around rural areas.
Yeah,
So,
USDA for rural.
Yep.
Are these the solar fields?
Yes, ma'am. So there is significant funding that will be coming out through that in the state. And
Are you doing that? Is that coming from you?
we do a lot of that. We do a lot of grant writing.
Well, no, I'm talking about if we're gonna, Elkhart County is being inundated with solar fields. And you've got some in the south, that if there's some way that we can provide an education.
Absolutely.
We did some model ordinance sharing on that.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's something that we can partner on and
Okay.
having some kind of either webinar or in-person event. But there is a Indiana Rural Sustainable Energy Day that's going to be at the Capitol. That's March 2nd. The National Truck Equipment Association, if you have trucks in your fleet, any municipality needs to go to this. It helps out with capabilities of making sure that your salt plows are calibrated correctly, all the way down to, mid-electrification and cleaner fuels opportunities. It's a great show. We have free exhibit hall passes. You need to register on our site to get that. The code is DCI 23.
Where's that at?
That is at the Indy Convention Center.
Is Purdue LTAP part of that?
Yes, ma'am. And they have specific days at the end that they're going to be. Last year they did a very good presentation with Johnny Van Vliet from the city of Hobart, talking about all their CNG implementation. We do have a meeting coming up with the Indiana Utility Group on the 8th. This is going to be during the Work Truck Week show. It's going to be at the Indiana Convention Center. This is discussing how the utilities are going to be planning on working together to deploy DC fast charging across the state. We are going to be having our Fleet Manager Networking event at Work Truck Show. It's just a nighttime event to get together and talk about all the different things that are going on related to municipal applications and vehicles. We're going to be having our Clean Cities Day at the Work Truck event. Work Truck is very busy. That is going to be with the Department of Energy heads that are going to be coming from Washington, and they're going to discuss the different funding mechanisms that are going to be available over the next 4 years. That is going to be March 9th, 10 a.m. to noon right now. This funding opportunity is coming out from the EPA. This is the Environmental Justice Collaborative Problem-Solving Program. And it's a cooperative agreement program. And this has an estimated $30 million in funding directly to community-based nonprofit organizations. There's $5 million reserved for small community-based nonprofit organizations. And in total, they want to award 50 awards of $500,000 and 30 awards of $150,000. This would be a good opportunity that would be able to put this group together.
Where is that?
This is a grant program.
Oh, okay.
Grants are due, applications are due on April 10th. There's another one. This is the Environmental Justice Government to Government Program. This is supporting or creating model state activities that lead to measurable environmental or public health results in communities disproportionately burdened by environmental harm and risks. These models should leverage or utilize existing resources or assets of state agencies, develop key tools and processes that integrate environmental justice considerations into state governments and government programs. 70 awards up to $1 million each, and this is a 3-year project. This is due April 10th. We're going to be having the we have the Northwest Indiana Earth Day event. That's going to be April 22nd at the Porter County Expo Center. We will be there, and we'll be having some vehicles there for viewing. We do have the Northwest Indiana Partners for Clean Air Luncheon Awards on May 5th. That's going to be at the Hammond Marina. Another opportunity that's coming out is going to be National DARE Grant. They skipped awarding an opportunity in 2022. In 2021, there was 30 applications, only 4 awards. 2 of those awards came from Drive Clean Indiana. So those will be multiple opportunities through that. It seems like every day some new kind of funding opportunities coming out. Definitely feel free to reach out to us. We have a finger on the pulse and talk you through it.
Since you're going to be busy are you busy February 7th? next week, next Tuesday?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there someone else that could come to the NICEWAG meeting?
Possibly.
Okay, because then we'll have you give that information too. I know Porter County was talking about redoing Earth Day. This is the first I've heard of it. I haven't gotten, did you hear of it? I haven't gotten any announcement. I'm gonna check with Amanda and see. Did you know, Kathy, they were gonna do Earth Day?
Yes, they
Yeah,
are.
don't think I've
I
seen
know
it.
they are, but they didn't tell me about it, okay? And you're looking at 10 or 15
Yeah, that's the first
people
time I heard
at
the date.
tables and that.
Reggie, you keep inviting people to that NICEWAG meeting. It's gonna be longer than this one.
Well, I don't care. You know, the people that come to NICEWAG are your municipalities, and they need this information.
Thank you, everyone. Any other reports or announcements or anything? And sorry, this is such a long meeting, but I think it's useful. It's a really great group, so I appreciate it. I appreciate all the input. The next formal, or next actual meeting will be May 4th. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
I have to vote on that one, I think you do.